Well, happy Friday, everybody. This is the Ask a Painter live show. I am Nick Slavic. I'm the host of Ask a Painter. I'm also the proprietor of the Nick Slavic Painting and Restoration Company. I use my over 20 years of experience as a craftsman to answer any of your questions you have about the coating science or the business end of it. And recently, we've been having a lot of contractors on our dual live format here, and today is going to be no exception. Today's guest, I will pull him up whenever he comes on here. We're going to do what we normally do on a Friday here. I'm going to walk you through my job site, kind of show you what we've been doing on this one. I believe we have 4 different job sites going right now. This is one of my favorites here right now, and I'll walk you through it and tell you why. Then Nick May will come on, and Nick May is a really dynamic fella. He owns a really progressive painting company. He has a podcast for painting professionals, and he also hosts a design podcast as well. So among other things, so we will get to that a little bit later. I'm gonna see who's up here. Michael Van Morik from across the pond. Thank you, Chris Shank, the great and powerful Chris Shank. The Lemke's are watching as usual. Russ Perry. Thank you for watching. Frequent listener Russ Perry, I watch Russ Perry. Juliano Alcantara, my friend. Bautarde, my friend. Carlos Silveira de Souza, thank you for watching. Hello to everybody in Brazil there. Graham McKay, Jeff Furtaw, happy Friday to you too. Let's pull up, and I'll walk you through my job site. Jim Chris, thank you for watching. Jeff Furtaw, I think I mentioned you. Fernanda, down in Brazil, thank you for watching. Rob Grant. All right, buddy, thank you for watching. And there's Nick May. Did I surprise you?
Hey, buddy. No, I'm just messing with you.
Well, Nick, thank you for doing this today. I appreciate it.
Hey, super excited. I'm super excited.
So, like at the start of every show here, I'm going to take people through a quick walkthrough of this job site that I'm at now, and then we'll sit down. And I've been collecting questions from your group on Facebook from all the top-end painting professionals, and we're going to kind of go through there, and we'll talk about a little more about you too. So, bear with me here. We're gonna walk through real quick. Okay, so this is one of the single coolest rooms I've done in a while. This is burlap wall covering here, and it's enameled with gold. We have some solid mahogany paneling here, handmade cabinetry back here, and this all has its coats of oil varnish on here. And we're going to go back through and massage a little bit more of this here. We have the a very elaborate staircase, and not in its construction, but in the finishes. We have a decorative finish on the floors, which I'll show you in here, which is actually an aged finish, multi-step process. We are enameling as we speak the skirts, and then we'll be painting the walls here. We have the tin ceiling that we've enameled with a flat enamel back here. We got the guys polishing the mahogany bar tops here. We're actually going to hand lay the last coat of oil varnish on this mahogany here, and that'll happen later today, because when we're out of here, we'll lay down the varnish, and then we will make sure there's no dust. And then we have it's a fairly simple bathroom, mahogany cabinetry and stuff, but what's going to be cool is that we will actually be using Benjamin Moore's high-end product, the handmade product, the Century stuff in here. So
nice.
It'll be very interesting. I've not used it before, and it'll be kind of a learning experience. So, all right, so let me flip this around back into the office here. Okay, so let me set up the stuff here so we can get going. All right, so thank you everybody for watching. If you guys have any suggestions for topics for me and Nick, you can list those down below. Any questions you have, we're going to talk at length, and periodically I'll scroll through and see what topics are coming up here. Nick, for those who don't know you, what do you fill your days with? What does Nick May do?
Oh my gosh, fill my days. Well, every day is different, my friend. This week has been Nick in the office for the most part. I did take half a day yesterday, went down to the World War II. No, come on. Do we build our business right?
That's right, man. That's right.
Do some of that stuff. Hung out with my boys. World War II aircraft
Oh, fun.
museum down in Colorado Springs, and my oldest is super into World War II, and so kind of surprised him with that trip. He was, if you saw the post that I did,
Absolutely.
he
That
was
was
like,
really impressive.
we had this group, and he was like in the front of the group, and like right, like I don't think he could get any closer to the guy talking. Right, like, he was like 3 feet from that guy, like hanging on every word. It was awesome. So we had a lot of fun. He got to climb into some of the planes. They had a simulator. It was great. So that's not a normal day for me, but normal is I'm in the office. I have a lot of meetings that can range from doing podcasting, because I do 2 podcasts. So the Business Brush podcast, and then I also do one for the interior design world called the Shays Lounge. I'm actually turn this light on and see if that helps a little bit.
And for people, to give a quick overview, Nick runs a really progressive painting business in Colorado. He has the Chaise Lounge podcast, which has been around for a while, very popular. And now recently the Business Brush podcast. And also, I don't know how long ago, it must have been within the last year or two, but you started the Business Brush group on Facebook, and that's been such a phenomenal asset. So you got a lot of plate spinning all at once.
I'll be honest, I didn't think that thing was going to take up as much time as it does, but man, there's so many good conversations going on over there about business. I mean, it's been fantastic. So all of that stuff, running my painting business is obviously first and foremost for what I do. So I have, production. Actually, I don't do the production meetings anymore. I got fired from that department. But I have sales meetings. I meet with my sales guys. And I meet with my office manager this morning we had our weekly meeting. And so she's in charge of all things office related. So she has meetings with the other folks in the office. We have, I think, 4 people in the office that report to her. And so she kind of gets me filled in on what's going on. We talk HR because she's also our HR director. And, then I'm like the last stop, for any customer complaints. Like if they haven't gotten the answer that they really want, stuff kind of trickles, I don't know, up or down to me, however you want to look at it. And then, I mean, the other thing is I travel a bit because of the podcast. So like Monday I leave and I'm going down to KBIZ, which is the Kitchen and Bath International Show down in Orlando. And it's also paired up with IBS, which is the International Builder Show. And so
nice.
I'll be meeting with folks down there I know you've been talking with the guys from This Old House. And so I'll be meeting up with some of those guys. And that's just been a really great way for me to do networking and to really build my personal brand and my network across the country, really.
Awesome. And your and for a lot of the painting contractors here, you have a very unique painting business. Tell us about it, because it's not like every other's painting business.
Yeah, we're fairly unique, for good or bad, I guess. We run, it's all interior, so 100% interior, and it's about 99% residential. I will tell you that we would love in 2018 to kind of get into more commercial stuff. But if that happens, it's going to be very, very focused and very specific.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to do any new construction. It'll be, our niche is working around people and things. And so those are the kind of scenarios we will be looking for. Now, I'll probably try to get into the kind of the hospitality remodel space, maybe some retail makeover, office makeovers, kind of stuff like that. Schools, that's a big interest. We have a little bit of experience back doing school work. So that's a really good fit for us. What else is unique about what we do?
Kitchen cabinets.
We do a lot of cabinets. About 65% of our business is painting cabinets. So we will do, on average right now, we're doing about 30 kitchen sets a month. And by summer, that number will probably go up to about 45 with our growth projections.
And I must have seen sometime in the last 6 months, but you had a really unique way of finishing these. Did I see a large enclosed trailer on a job site drying cabinet doors?
Yeah. So 3 years ago or so, I kind of made the realization that, everybody wanted a painted kitchen, typically, and really it was the white kitchen. So everywhere we looked, it was white kitchens. And I thought, man, we started to get some requests for it. And I thought, I think there's something here. And so I really just kind of dove in, and I went out and saw another painter's process for painting cabinets. So John Shear up in Seattle, kind of all
Oh yeah, yep.
he helped me with a lot of that system, and then because he had a shop, he would take them back to the shop and spray them, and we at that point didn't have a shop, and so I thought, man, what else can I do, right? And so right around the same time, a buddy of mine, I was helping him move, and we take the last load of stuff out of this big moving truck, and I stood in that truck with all that space, right? And I thought, man, this would be awesome. And I said, this is what I need. So then I thought, I'm going to buy trucks. But then I did the math, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. And then I thought, what if I get a big trailer? And so I literally bought the crappiest trailer I could find. I mean, obviously I wasn't looking for a crappy trailer. I was looking for a cheap trailer, right? And so
absolutely.
I think the first trailer I bought was like $2,000, and we still have it to this day, but it has like a broken axle, and it limps, and it is not pretty. I will tell you that, Nick, it is not. But it gets the job done. And so we put a wall in, and we've created a spray booth, and the rest of the trailer is a big drying rack, basically. And so it made the process amazing. And so for the longest time, for about 3 years, the first 3 years we were doing kitchens, that's all we did. So I have, I think, 8 trailers, 8 of these that are ranged from 18 feet to 24 feet. And but then we found that we had difficulty when customers wanted us to go and work at their condo or their townhouse. Any of those areas or even downtown Denver where the streets are tight, and if it snows, you got to move your car. Like, that wouldn't work, right? Because we can't move it once everything's hung. And so we, this last spring, we invested into a spray shop. And so now we have one guy working out of that. And now we're really trying to tighten down the systems with that. And so now we're getting some different efficiencies. And so we'll actually be able to grow a bunch this year because we won't have to buy any more equipment. I won't have to buy additional sprayers, additional trailers, which are super expensive. And so now we're trying to leverage, we're trying to do more with less, simply what we're trying to do. And so, but yeah, we've kind of built a reputation here in Denver for kind of the go-to on cabinets.
Very nice. And for those people who aren't affiliated with the Business Brush group on Facebook, this has become a really unique sort of animal. Why don't you tell people about the Business Brush?
So I'm selfish, Nick. I'm sorry, but I started it so I could get a little bit more press and more attention for the podcast. And so, because when you start something like that, it's like it's all about numbers and driving traffic. And my story is a little bit like yours, where I didn't know a lot of contractors, a lot of other painters, just even a year and a half ago, right?
Exactly.
Excuse me. And so I started that to just create an environment where I could bring guys into that conversation and have those business talks. And there are some other great groups out there, and I know there's a lot of guys watching right now. And I'm not, so you really are fantastic about talking about technique and really getting into how you're doing stuff. And that's not me. Like we keep things super simple. Like we paint walls and trim and ceilings and and cabinets. Like, and then that's it. That's all we do. I don't even stain anything, Nick. Like, don't call me to stain your front door. Like, we're not going to do it.
You're better because of that, by the way.
And so
here, let me.
So in that same vein, we only talk oh God, don't even show me.
I know, right? Doesn't that give you horror stories? This makes you want to throw up into a trash can.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it does. It does. So let me tell you a really fast story. We're getting sidetracked, but let me tell you what was the nail in the coffin for me on stain. So we're working with an interior designer here in Denver, and we'd had bad experiences with doing staining, and it was a brand new handrail system. And I said, all right, we're not touching the stain. Just go to Gyrie's, which is their paint store. get your paint match, and just have it at the job site. You can use my account. I don't care. Just you go get it, and we'll stain it. So cans there, samples there. It's super dark. We go to it. We apply it. Wipe the handrail. She comes in, and she's like, "That's not the right color." We're like, "We used your can." Come to find out, when she did her sample, she never wiped it. She just put heavy stain and just let it sit. And we're like, "That's not how you stain? Come on." And then she thought it was our fault. Huh. So I was like, "That's it. No more. I'm not doing stain. No more."
God. Yeah. You got to have a thick skin for the stain world. So, back real quick on the business brush, and then I'm going to go through the questions that I gathered from the business brush.
So anyway, so we just focus. So similar to my painting business, where we focus in the business brush group on just talking the business of painting. We don't talk about staining. We don't talk about painting.
Especially not staining.
Right, exactly. Every once in a while, a cabinet question pops up, but that's about as far as I go.
No, and to give people some context here, I'm familiar, I'm sure, with all the same painters groups out there, and it is a wonderful wealth of information. I mean, you and I have just recently sort of came into contact with other painters, but 10, 20 years ago when we were doing this, how nice would it have been to fire up Facebook and then just search for whatever topic you're looking for, especially business. And it's all right there. It's been hashed out. It'll get you, there's no perfect answers, but man, it could have saved us a lot of time of, because you're starting a business on your own. You're not the only one who's ever done this. The answers are all out there.
Right. We had a question recently we were talking about, and I think this discussion's still going on, about workman's comp, and someone finally for the first time saying, "All right, I'm ready. I'm going to be legit. I'm going to stop paying my guys cash, and I'm going to get serious. I'm going to get workman's comp." And then he's like, "Holy crap, it's expensive," And then some of us talking about, well, there are ways to make sure that you're not paying that top level. Like, you've got to, make sure you're being categorized right, and you have to have safety systems and training in place, and that'll get you a discount. And then the PDCA, if you're affiliated with PDCA, you can get a discount. And so those kind of conversations where guys are like, "I didn't even know that was a thing," right? So it's been fantastic. Yeah, that discussion.
And it's great. The value engineering that happens there, you go from what is work comp to all of a sudden asking, how can you hone it down into something? So it's so cool. Right. I love the pointed discussions there on the Business Brush site. So and speaking of that, we put a post out there looking for topics or questions, and I gathered 4 of them, and God, they were good too. Brent Judd asked, member of the Business Brush, Nick and Nick, you two have what appears to be very different markets in terms of population density. I'd like to hear the differences and strategies between marketing and scaling a business in each environment. So we may not be actually as different as you think. You're going to have a much higher population, but we're both about 45 minutes out of dead center of the metro, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you just kind of stick a little bit more local to you, right?
Yeah, and if we probably have about the same, just like every other contractor, if you plot every job you've ever done, the majority of those are going to be in a 20, there you go, right there. The majority are going to be in a 20-mile radius around you. And it just so happens my radius is egg-shaped. And if you look at my metro, I'm kind of down here in the corner. It eggs up into that like that. And it just so happens between me and the center of the city is one of the biggest building booms in the country right now. So I have a lot of value between me there. But I actually don't have a very high, I'm in a town of 7,500 people. So.
Yeah, I'm in a subdivision with 100,000 people.
So it's
technically not a city. Technically,
in growing a business like that, off the top of your head, you would think, well, you would have an advantage being around that many more possible painters, that many more possible customers, and yes, up into that all is true after a certain point. Because I think if you're going to be a 5-man shop or something like that, I think you can do that anywhere, unless you're in the middle of South Dakota, that's just not going to happen. But past this 10-man part, it seems that one of the first plateaus in painting businesses is possibly right around, I have 10 people working. After that, you have to work it seems, progressively harder to find employees and things like that. So I don't know what your thoughts are on different, if you had to scale a business in a smaller area versus a large metro.
I know it's tough when you're in a smaller, more rural area, because you can't. I don't necessarily know if you could specialize like I do in
No,
one
no.
certain area. You have to be when you're in an area that has less density. You've got to be able to do more things for more people. But I still think that there's a way to, kind of niche down. But it's definitely different in a big market versus a smaller market. But I don't know about with hiring. Hiring for everybody right now is a hot topic. I don't know. I don't care where you are in the country.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're doing from a hiring perspective is we're recruiting from all over the country. I recruited one guy. Our digital marketing guy actually came from Connecticut. I have a lead painter. One of my cabinet painters is from Pennsylvania. And then I have a gal that we moved probably 2 or 3 months ago from Texas. And then I'm actually interviewing and trying to recruit a gal from Oklahoma right now. And so we are, it's tight here in Denver, but we found that a lot of people that we would hire would literally have just moved to Denver because a lot of people want to move to Denver. And so I just said, you know what, I'm going to start taking my ads and going to these other cities that we're talking to people that they're moving from and say, hey, would you be willing to come to Denver because we're hiring and there's a lot of opportunity here. So we have, and I have started to do a little bit of going to those smaller rural markets. Like, I don't know, I think of Oklahoma City as a smaller market.
Yep.
Albuquerque is a smaller market. And going to some of those that might not have the boom that we're having in Denver and saying, hey, if you're having a hard time, would you consider moving to Denver?
Yeah, yes, and there's a lot of questions in there, and the one thing that in the past 2 years, really in the last 18 months, I made the decision to just go for it. Finally, everything was in place, and it's not that hard to find people. The problem is, or I think the thing that separates it is, I've laid track for 10 years before that. So it's not like, if you and I had to start a painting business today from nothing, I assume we'd probably find a major metro area, correct?
Yeah. I would say to guys that are struggling in small markets, consider moving. Like, I don't know. I mean, some people are kind of stuck and they're not willing to move. But if you really want to be successful, but you live in like the middle of, I don't know, North Dakota, it might be worth saying, hey, would I consider moving to a more of a major metropolitan area? I don't know.
And a lot of the proof is that, a lot of people with unique specialties or a specifically high set of traits and things like that, they can build things in unique little areas. But take a look at probably the 20 largest residential painting companies in the United States. They're all going to be in major metro areas. You can't have 100 painters working for you in, in Kansas. It's just not going to happen. It's got to be LA. It's got to be New York, Boston, one of those sort of things. So let's see what else we got on here. You got anything else on the difference in scaling businesses there? One other thing that came to mind was, in my town, because I grew up in my hometown and was raised there, and before me, my father painted, so I have this sort of a name legacy there. It's all the relationships you've built, and when you're looking for people to come work for you and people know they can trust you, I wonder if you don't even have an advantage if you only need a certain amount of employees. Now, if I had to hire 25 people a year, I would be hard pressed no matter how good my reputation is. But if I only need to get 8 to 10 candidates a year, good candidates in, I honestly think you might spend less time finding those people in a small area where you've tilled the soil before.
Yeah, and I think that goes back, Nick, to what do you want? I think so many people, like, they skip to this idea of scale, and it's like, you might not want to scale. Like, I've got a payroll that's like, I don't know, $40,000 last week. Some people don't want that.
And that's big to have hanging over your head, because that never goes away. Your paycheck is not
Yeah.
guaranteed every week. That paycheck is guaranteed every week.
And there's something to be said, I know guys here in my market that that have continued to stay solo guys. They have no employees. They stay out 3-4 months, maybe 6 months. Like, their customers are willing to wait for them. And they love to paint every day. Like, I don't love to paint every day. And when I started my business, I never wanted to be the guy behind the brush all the time. I wanted to build a business. I wanted to build a team. I love team. And I feel like I thrive in that. Like, I just try to play to my strengths. And so that's, I think, what people need to ask themselves. What do I want? What do I want my business? What do I want my life to look like? For me, I want a lot of flexibility. So I have a goal right now. I want to be traveling, almost half my time, and be able to work, like still work, but not from Denver.
Yeah, just do more important things. Elevate a few tasks to what you should be doing, and then delegate the rest.
I'm gonna push back on you. I'll say it's all important. It's just where is your piece of that puzzle?
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
So I'm big picture. I'm visionary. I'm marketing, and I literally can do that from anywhere.
Yep, that's true. That's true. Let's see what else we make sure we plumb the depths of that one there. One of the interesting things that everything over the last 18 months for me has been perspective, because at this point, we have our coding systems down. We have a general grasp on business. We just need to refine it and find ways to take the next steps. One of the things I've basically done this last year, and you and your group have been a huge help to me, is just gathering perspective, like figuring out, you find guys like Jason Paris and Dustin Zapanzik and Christian Militello, Nick Lagrasso, and you realize, okay, they give you their experience, you give you yours, and all of a sudden you start gathering. Find out, like you ask, what do you want your life to look like? 5 years ago, I was under the assumption that, okay, if I'm a 4-man shop, if I add 5, that's just going to be another 25 or 20% added to it. And then you add a 6, and each painter is going to keep adding that much value. And why not add 18 then? But at a certain layer, you have to start adding other layers and more complex layers.
The infrastructure. Yep.
Absolutely. And you find out from a lot of real world experiences, the theories on paper about what you should be making with people go away very quickly, because we all know companies. There's probably 3 or 4, 10 or 20 man companies where people are making drastically different income off the same thing. So it's such a mix out there. So, but it all helps too. And one of the biggest pieces of perspective that I got, especially from you and your group this year, was that in a growth phase, you would think that you just keep, building income and net income should follow and things like that. But from everybody else, I've now realized that you basically have to take a 2 to 3 year period and say, you may be flat, you may make a little less, you only may have gradual stuff, but you build up this momentum, and then come year 2 or 3, then a payoff comes. So don't throw yourself off a bridge come year 2.5, because you may be doing everything right. You just need to keep doing things right and have, like you said, with all your trailers, it probably sucked to buy 12 trailers over the course of a couple of years. But then when they're all done and paid for, and then you start, leveraging that stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely, instead of, I think to your point, people think that it's this nice, steady, gradual climb. You do more work, you make more money, and it doesn't necessarily work well. It's more of like a step system. You gotta.
That's true. Yeah.
You get to a certain point, and then to make more money, you've got to invest, right? And so right now we're investing in a CMS system, customer management system, because we outgrew our old system several years ago. And so the hard part was there's no good time to do this, because it's just like everything else. It takes time and it takes money, right? And typically, just like everybody else and everything else, it's like you either have time or money. You very rarely have both at the same time. So we were having a meeting about this morning. Like, this is the worst time for us to be investing in that, because cash flow is kind of tight right around this time of year.
Yep.
But from a time perspective, this is the time we need to be doing it, because the guys aren't necessarily as busy. And so we've got to train on the new system. So We just took the plunge and we're doing it. But in so many other things, as far as, you build up, because people can only manage so many people. So you get to a certain point, then you got to have another big piece of overhead, another office staff or another project manager or another, something that costs you quite a bit of money. And it's like, boonk, then you're at that level of overhead, right?
But I like that you bring it back to, again, you should be thinking about what you want your life to be down the way, because it would probably change your decisions right now, what you're doing, and bigger is not always better. It's just, it might be different. So,
yeah. And
okay.
For me, Nick, I'm super patient. Like, I get that there's a long-term payout. And so I'm willing, there's guys that have grosses that are, at the same level that I have or less, and they may make more money than I do. But I've got my eye on the prize. Like, I'm building a bigger thing. And so I know that if I get there, then the payoff is going to be even better.
Absolutely. And if anybody else has any questions or topic suggestions, leave it down below. Mike Danahy, also from the Business Brush site. Speaking of work-life balance, there's a topic in itself. How do two people like you, with so many moving parts, find the ability to shut it down each evening or weekend? Nick?
Shutting down business?
Basically turning off the business thing and having time for family or yourself or something else. I think that's what they're asking.
I'm just going to be candid. I don't ever shut it off. I mean, so I told you I was yesterday. I'm at the museum thing yesterday.
Yep.
Like a couple minutes over there in the corner, like I took a phone call and I'm back at it, right? And I'm like, I'm messaging. Honestly, I don't. Like, people say I'm a workaholic, but that's what I signed up for. Like, I'm an entrepreneur through and through, right? You don't start two companies, and just think that you're going to have this nice compartmentalized life. And it's always been like that for me. I've always worked 7 days a week. Yes, there's been times in my life where my wife's like, all right, Nick, you got to freaking knock it off and slow down and spend more time with us and do all that. And so I think I've gotten a little bit better of, cutting off when I'm doing things in the evening and really giving them certain times. And I think that is different for every person. It just depends on what that, your relationship is like. And I look at things as seasons, so like I'm traveling a bunch, but my wife gets to come with me on some pretty fantastic trips. So in March, I'll go to Spain with one of my sponsors from my interior design podcast, Porcelanosa. So I'm going to Spain with them. They'll cover all of my travel costs. We're going to fly her over. Her and I are going to get to spend an extra week over there. Not so bad, right?
Not so bad.
So I'm not that guy that goes, hey, I want a nice, clean, crisp life and say I'm going to cut it off at 6 o'clock and then I'm not going to pick it up till 6 a.m. That's just not me. It's never been me. And so, and again, that's going to go back to what do you want in life, right? Like, if you want that, then you're going to stay smaller, because if you stay smaller, you don't have to have the big marketing focus. You don't have to have, right? So it's all comes back to what do you want? Where are you going?
And, over the last 2 years, I've been experimenting with a lot of, testing how good of a business person I am. And part of that was scaling back my time to try to spend some time with family. Because for the 8 years of my business, the first 8 years, basically from the time I woke up to about 8 or 9 at night, I was available for my customers. If they needed me to do a project, I was there. Estimates in the evenings. I finally, right away, my wife said when I started my business, no weekends. Because with my family business, Saturday was a definite. And then if there was something that needed to be done, we'd work a half day Sunday. And there was always something that needed to be done. So it was kind of a pain in the ass. And you get into that rhythm where then you marry somebody and they're like, hey, listen, there's this whole thing called family and we should hang out, and you can only work Monday through Friday. And I thought, oh my God, I'm leaving all that money on the table, an extra day and a half a week, but it was the best thing I ever did. And that's not scaling back. You shouldn't be doing that anyway. You should, if you're good enough at your job, you should be able to do the vast majority of it Monday through Friday. Now that could be stem to stern, but you got to spend some. So the weekends were always Friday night at 4 o'clock is basically a religious holiday every weekend for me and the family. It's done. There's no business going on there. maybe if I got a crew out working on the weekend and they have a question, I'll answer, but really nothing. So basically, I've just shifted my day. I gave up the evening estimates. Turns out everybody works from home nowadays, so you can just show up in the middle of the day and everybody's
That's
there.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
a year ago, my wife brought up the idea like, hey, you should be doing estimates during the day. I thought, well, everybody has jobs. Who can meet me during the day? And turns out everybody can meet you during the day. So it's been really good. I have evenings now with my kids. I'll usually, I've shifted my day. I try to keep the evening free because I don't see my kids all that often otherwise. So what I'll do is I'll just shift my work to before I meet with the crews and, take up that time in the evening with the kids and miscellaneous work. But I think right now it's a good mix. I mean, I pop in during the day quite a bit. And like you said, it's flexibility. If, me and one of my sons want to go get a haircut this afternoon, we'll just load up and go do it. It's nice to have that so that not your business just doesn't stop when you're not there, which is really nice. So,
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what else we got here. Gary Gomez.
Hey, I want to answer something real quick. There's a comment
yeah.
by Julie Hampton. She's saying you can hustle, but you can't hustle forever. And to that point, I am building a system so that I don't have to hustle in the future as much. Like when I say hustle, like I'm not the guy out doing estimates anymore. And people have to understand that. I'm not. You're in a different space than I'm in. So I don't do estimates at all. I have 3 guys right now. We're just hired, and we're going to be starting to train next week, our 4th guy. And so that map that I showed just a minute ago, that's all of Denver. We cover it, but I don't have to go out and do any of that. So everything that I'm doing can be done at a computer, with a phone. And so while I say, I'm always working, it's not intense work where you're like on the job site. And I'm building it to the point where I'm building team so that I have other people that are taking care of all that stuff, so that in 3 years, in 5 years, like there's very little things that I'm, the emergency, it's getting to Nick. So we're going to continue to hustle, but it's a different kind of hustle. I'm leveraging people, and I'm leveraging the tools that we have at our fingertips today in 2018 that we didn't have 10 years ago, like Facebook, like Instagram, like automation, like all these things that we have. So anyways, just wanted to kind of.
I agree, and I've realized that it seemed like when I first had some contact with painters, or the feedback I was getting about my business was, you're such a sucker, you actually work. And what I've all the people that I look up to in this industry, their sign of success is not how little they work, it's what type of work they fill their day with. It's you find things where you can provide the most value to your business. Like, it may not be painting, it may not be estimates, it might be researching business theory or finding, new markets. Should we go to 4 offices? Should we have 1? Should we do there's a whole bunch of other things. So yes, you can't hustle forever. You can hustle in a different way though. And instead of using, your knees and your back, you always got this thing too. So if you really, and the problem is, Nick, what if you actually like this? Like, what if your goal is not to work? What if you're like, this gives me so much satisfaction, I want to see how far I can take this in life. So you also have that problem of, I don't want to give it up. I want to be attached somehow to this.
Yeah. I have to be careful, Nick, right now, because I just noticed that my wife just jumped on. So I really have to watch what I say.
Okay, well, we're behaving. And question number 2. All right, Mike Danahy. Sorry, that was question number 2. Question number 3, Gary Gomez. I'd like to hear from the both of you about your aha moment. What was it that clicked, came into view, and made everything change from the time you were a solo painter or a young business to where you're a business owner working on your business? What made it possible for it to happen, and what was the moment?
Do I get to go first?
You first. After you.
Yeah. So for me, it was focus. That's the simple answer. Let me give you the backstory on that. So early on in my career, to be honest, I was very unhappy at being a painter. I felt like I had settled, and that I just had a huge complex about it. Like, I was embarrassed to tell people. We would go to events. I remember going to this one really nice. It was like the Entrepreneur of the Year award for my wife's boss. And so we're at this table, everyone's dressed up, they're all like engineers, and they're like, "Oh, so what do you do?" And I'm like, I'm a painter. And so I had this really bad, I think, perception of myself and the craft and the industry and everything that I was doing. And so I always wanted to be more and bigger. And so what I ended up doing was we expanded into all sorts of things. So I became the painter, the hardwood floor guy, the tile guy, all of these things. And it literally almost bankrupted me, Nick. And I see a lot of guys that do that in our industry, and not just going into these other trades, but even just in painting. Like, I'm the commercial guy, I'm the new construction guy, I'm the, everything. If it's not moving, I'm going to paint it. And so for me, when I decided to get rid of all that stuff, like all the hardwood floor stuff, all that other crap that was taking energy and money really out of my business, and then I was painting, and then I said, all right, well, we do all this painting. We don't really like doing outside painting, and we're not very good at it, so let's not do that anymore either. So when I started to focus and narrow what I did, it made training guys very easy, and it also made marketing my business much simpler, because then I could speak to exactly who I was going after. When you do all these different things, you're trying to do and be everything to everyone. How do you get that message communicated? Well, now we just get to say, we're your interior painting solution, right? And so that helped me grow the business. And really, I mean, there's some other things that happened, but that's when our business really took off and started to, not quite double in size, but we've had 60% growth ever since, year on year.
And so was there one particular event, a conglomeration of events where you finally said, okay, this is it. This is the year. We're going to get a bunch of people. We're going to get our systems. Was it one thing, or was it just one of those sort of, it accumulated over time?
Just accumulated.
And it just sort of did.
You start, I think what ends up happening, at least this is what happens for me, I stop every so often and I kind of look back of what's transpired. And when you do that, you start to see trends. And so as I started to see this trend of, hey, we're starting to get really good traction. I used to throw so much money away marketing, right? Because you've heard the saying, 50% of my marketing is working. I just don't know which 50%, right?
Absolutely.
Well, today, our worst ROI on marketing last year was 8 times ROI.
Yeah.
That was the worst. Right?
Yeah.
So everything that I do, because we track everything, is producing better than 8 times return. So, and that's just one example of looking back or looking at what's going on and saying, okay, now we're winning. Why are we winning?
Exactly. And what was the progression? Obviously now I think you must be 20, 30 people. I can't remember the last time you mentioned painters working for you now, or total staff now.
My staff is about 30, and but that includes a couple of people that I have that are part-time that will help me with the podcasting that I do.
Okay. So when was that?
Just added a couple more painters, so we may be 30 just all in painting.
Okay. So what was the curve like when you went from your painting, maybe with somebody else? Was it a steep curve? Was it sort of a just angle, 45-degree angle? Did you ramp up quickly?
It was pretty gradual over the years. We started to get, I don't think we really did the hockey stick thing with employees. We just did that with our sales and our production and our efficiencies over the last maybe year and a half to 2 years, as we've started to leverage not only people, but things. We talked about at length our new process with cabinets. So we started to leverage that piece of equipment. And so us as a company started to produce more with one guy, right? So now I can produce the same amount of production with one cabinet guy as I can with 2 to 3 regular painting guys, right? So our production numbers went up tremendously without having to increase staff tremendously. And so now we're trying to do that same thing with now that we have the shop. So we're trying to leverage more of that equipment kind of thing. And when you start to do that, that's really where you find a lot of efficiencies, because when you're just trading on guys' time, like it's an addition. You add another guy,
Yep.
you get another
Yep.
addition. But when you add
Yep.
guys with systems and equipment, then you get a multiplication factored in there. And that's where the big growth happened for us.
That would actually be really, I wonder if you took every painting company over their progression and charted, the sales and charted amount of people. I wonder if you'd find some weird, interesting trend where, one was always steady, one hockey stick. It'd be fun to find the correlation between those two things. There'd probably be something to learn from it if you did that.
Yeah.
My aha moment was basically probably 2 years ago. I had an upbringing and a young painting life. I started when I was 10 years old working for the family business, like a lot of people. It can only be described as North Korean-like. I was basically in this super regressive, just horrible sort of family business. It just, nothing worked real right. And by sheer will and back muscle,
right.
You eked out a living. And, I started my business 10 years ago.
But you grew up in this, like your dad was a painter, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but horribly regressive business. I can't say how.
Yeah.
Just it's like if you just plunked him in the middle of Nova Scotia, in the middle of the Arctic tundra, and said paint, and then 100 years check back later, no technology, doing everything the same, but
right.
not in a good way. It didn't start off good. It didn't progress to good. It wasn't anything good in between. So it was when North Korea let me out, and I started my own business 10 years ago. Of course, I did what, if you put a beaver on top of a building, he's going to try to build a dam. So I immediately did for 2 or 3 years the same thing that my father did, just working as a one-man crew, no process improvements. And pretty soon, just by natural progression, I felt like I should do things better. You do that, and then you realize, you look around, like there's a lot of one-man painting companies, but all the people who have the most, actually. Right. And you look around and you see the guys that seem to be doing well have more than one person. And you're like, okay, so in theory, this works.
There's a few guys that do well, just one, but it's not often.
Yeah. And well is completely relative. And so you look around and you think, okay, in theory, employees work out. So, I do what most guys do. I got a friend who's a teacher, and this is easy. He's got a job. I can use him for 3 months. We'll work together. And you know what? I don't have to fire him. He's going back. So if this is a horrible experiment, he could just go back to his job. Well, it turned out it was really good. And it took a lot of the work off my back. And it's like, hey, this is good. So every year I added a painter and got my systems down. And I should have done this a lot sooner. But 2 years ago, I got introduced to the PDCA, and I thought it was a union or a trade group that, was more about membership than with helping. As soon as I was introduced to it, to the inner workings of it, you realize, like, okay, this is the collection of probably the finest business painting entrepreneurial minds in the world right here. And they're all really nice people. They're all very successful, and they're all willing to share. And they're all just great human beings. And I didn't grow up in a world where there was a lot of great human beings. Like, everybody else other than you was your enemy. Even other businesses, hey, that plumber's doing well, he's the enemy, And you finally realize, like, you don't have to be a horrible person. Right. So all of a sudden, I went to this PDCA event, and my mind was blown. It's the guy walking between North and South Korea and being let out, and like, oh, food and water, and this is the greatest thing ever. And, over the next year, I went to a bunch of other events and got to know a bunch of people. And at the end of that year, I decided, you know what? Based on the perspective that I've gained here, I'm doing everything right. I got the coding science down. We're doing really high-end work. My systems are there. They're just not on paper. Just by working through them every day and improvement, they're all here. Now we just have to do it. And with the abilities that I had at the time, I was looking around saying, okay, I'm a factory that's producing 20% of what it should. I should be having 10 people working. So that next year I just laid out a plan. I hired 15 people, 10 worked out, and there you are. So sometimes, and that's why right now my whole life is dedicated to perspective gathering. Every person like you I meet, you got so much good stuff to say. I take all that as a data point, and I say, how can this make me a better painter and a person? And it's all it was that perspective. It turns out, you would think, oh, I'm doing. The perspective always is, when I meet other painters, everybody's going to be so much better than me, and they are. But there's a lot of things that you're doing, even as a one-man outfit, that a lot of 20-man outfits don't do. And you have to notice what you're good at and then take all the things that they're good at and do it. So my aha moment over a course of a year, and then immediately the difference is action, and then having a plan for that action, and then being accountable to it. So just coming back and saying, I'm just going to work harder isn't going to do anything for you. But going out there and saying, every month I'm going to hire 2 people, that's it. So now it's, and like you said before, we signed up for this, and being at the helm of a growth stage business is not fair. If you think, well, hey, I should only be working 8 to 4, it's not fair, man. If you want to have a business in the growth stage, you have got to just say, this ain't going to be fair. We're going to devote 100% of my life to it. Like you said, as a patient man, if you do everything right, you'll get the payoff at the end. So I would, the biggest aha moment was talking to my competitors, really. They're not really my competitors. So Mike Pote, the last question I gathered here, I'd love some insight on your growth from when you first put down the brush to were you able to make the same income as still being in the field. I feel like out in the field, I would run 8 guys to make the same living I did running 2, but being on site 35 hours a week. The growth period has always scared me. So any particular, it sounds like he's got about 6 questions there. Any particular comfort you can give,
I hear
Mike?
what he's trying to say or trying to ask. So I've been doing this for 18 years, and it's been a rocky road. And I've already shared that we tried to expand and go into all sorts of things, and it derailed me. Had we stuck to painting, and it would have been, more of this kind of thing. I mean, it wouldn't have been like this. It might have been more like that. But mine was like freaking like that.
You're getting the bends.
Yeah, I mean, we had the crash of with 9/11, and then we had the crash of 2008 and 2009. It was like every time we finally were starting to get back on track, then the economy would just go poof. And then it was just like building all over again, right? So I can't even really speak to that because there were so many factors at play over the years. I mean, my income, I think early on, I want to say in about right as I was turning 1.5 or 2 was when I first really started making good money. And then I decided I wanted to go into flooring. And then it was all the money went back in the business. I didn't take a paycheck. So I don't honestly have a great answer for that. I think if I could go back and do it all over again, I would probably do it differently. But I'm a big believer that I am who I am today because of the things that I've learned through all the crap that I've done and all the mistakes that I've made. I'm a thick learner, Nick. I mean, I read the E-Myth. It took me 12 times to figure out how to start putting the systems into my business. And that is not an exaggeration. I put it in my earphones and I listened on audio, and I would, I would just get finished and I would start it again. I would take a 6-month break. I would go back to it. And so there's definitely the right and wrong way to do it. One of the things I learned a couple years ago from listening to a podcast, and the guy's name, I'm really bad with names, but I want to say it's Mike Mohorowitz or Makowitz or something like that. And he's a big, kind of guru guy, writes books and all that stuff. But he taught me that, in business, what we see people do all the time, this was one of the things that I did horribly, is business would start to do good, right? And you go, oh, I got to hire more guys because I got to keep up with the demands. You'd hire more guys, and then the economy would tank a little bit, or you'd hit a season, right? You'd hit a Christmas, or, for us, a lot of people will hit the season. I would hit the season in July some years because people would go on vacation, and then and the call volume would go down. And so then you'd be discounting your work and just to keep all those guys that you just hired, right? You don't want to lose them. And then you get busy again, you do the same thing. And this perpetual cycle, so you never start really making good money. And so what Mike teaches is that you really need to build kind of a waiting list almost for you, go way out. And so for us, it was making sure that we were 6 to 8 weeks out all the time, right?
Yep.
And so once we got to that point, and I was always afraid of being that far booked out because I was afraid of losing some of the stuff. But it's like, so I do a talk for designers and whatnot on filling your marketing funnel. I think that marketing funnel needs to be overflowing all of the time. And so when you have that overflow all of the time, then you don't ever have to discount your work, right? Yep. And so then you're getting premium dollar. And so we always try to stay behind the hiring, so we always have kind of long lead times. Now we're playing with some different things for this year on that, but I think I don't know how this relates to that last question, but I think that's one of the things that I've learned in this last year. And because most guys are like, they get 3 weeks out, right? And they're like, I gotta hire another guy. And I'm like, no, you don't. Like, don't hire one yet. Like, make sure you're booked out at least 6 weeks before you start looking. And then by the time you hire them, maybe you be 8 weeks out. And because there's something to, like, I've been here long enough now that there's something when customers call you and they're like, how far out are you? Because that's like question number 2, right?
That's the question. Yep.
We're booked for March. Like, we're booking into March, and they're like, wow, you guys are really busy. And we're like, yeah, if you want to get on our schedule, we need a deposit. Like, that's all. Like, that's not even a question for us. So, yep. Excuse me. So, huge lesson for me over the years that, making sure that you've got that backlog. When you go to present yourself and you're not worried, like when you're starving, you sound like the used car salesman, right? And that's not good for anybody.
And it's funny. I've been thinking a lot about new construction this last year, and hey, there we go. I know that. I've been thinking a lot about new construction this last year. It's something that I very much enjoy to do. And people always ask, well, why do you like new construction? And I like new construction because I come at it at a point of strength where my year is filled up with private clients. You have I've pounded the pavement. I do the marketing. I get the private people in. I don't rely on 1 or 2 home builders. So when a home builder comes, I have to at least make what I would make on a private repaint. Otherwise, it's not worth it to me. The opportunity cost has to be there, or even then some, because when you think about the delay in time paying, the material outlay, you have to take that into consideration. So I have to, you come at a place from strength, and it completely changes how honest you are. It's huge. So, Mike, I will tell you this. I need 4 well-trained apprentices to replace my income if I was painting in the field. I've been doing this for 20 years. There's just certain things that I can do. I can wallpaper, I can do decorative finishes. So there's certain things where I just got done doing a 10-year financial analysis of my business and trying to figure out the whole employee, seeing what I can learn. And one of the things was I need 4 people in the field to replace my income. Now, that's awesome. You think, well, hey, we'll have 4 people, we'll make the same amount of money. But you just took your risk level to this high. Before, if you're just a one-man company making X amount of money, if you just want to replicate that with 4 other people, your risk level is so high that the thinking should be, don't add 4 to replace you, add 8. So take your 4, that'll replace your income, and add another 4 to do that. So that's the way, redundancy. And I'm trying to think what the last part of his question was here. When I first put down the brush. Yeah, the growth period is weird, but it's exciting. And, the only reason I feel comfort in the growth phase is there's nothing more thrilling than being at the helm of a growth stage business. And the only thing that gives me comfort is the perspective I gain from other people and the numbers that I run in my business. If numbers point a certain way and the experience of other painters points in a certain way, what are you going to do? You have to progress forward, and then your personality will dictate what your business looks like, what your threshold level for hours of work, for knowledge, for the ability to seek out new theories of running businesses and things like that. So it's kind of a fun thing, and one of the coolest things that I've experienced now in meeting other painters is seeing the correlation between who that person is and what type of business they run. And it's so cool to see that we're almost weird self-limiting animals, like goldfish in a bowl. Like we'll only get as big as something in here, you know? And it's kind of funny how we find our levels. So
yeah.
Nick, do you want to hang out and answer a few questions? Or I know we're already doing long here, but I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Richard Hellman is asking where I get my French-Canadian accent from. I've never noticed that I had a French-Canadian accent, but I grew up in Chicago in the suburbs, and so I don't know. That's the only. And then I moved to South Carolina, and then I moved to Denver. So I don't know.
Well, I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to scroll through a few questions. We can rapid fire a few of these, and then we'll call it a week. So Carlos Andre Silveira de Souza. Good morning or afternoon. I don't know. It's afternoon here in Brazil. You're probably 6 hours later. Brett Judd, thank you for watching. Duke Burry, thank you for watching. Russ Perry, as always. Dean Cudd. Tim Marcellet, past apprentice of mine, paratrooper and realtor in my hometown. Anthony Cade. Anthony Cade, it's always fun to watch Anthony. He's a young up-and-coming contractor. Ryan Parker, Mike Pote from the Business Brush Group. Tom Mosberg, a local contractor. Christopher Riggins. Christopher Riggins is a really progressive contractor as well, Nick. I met him at a PDCA event a while ago. It's super good to talk to. Chris Kubish, thank you for watching. Dwayne Battles, Derek Anslem. Let's see that burlap ceiling. It's gold. So yeah, it's not greatest light here. We're in a historic home, and low ceiling, low light. When he gets his final fixture in there, it'll be pretty cool. But awesome, can't beat gold. So Scott Glazinski, Fernando Granado, hello to you too. Stu Nicolai, Wal Ferreira, thank you, sir. Kelly Hardwick, thank you for watching. Ivan O'Farrell, thank you for watching as well. Good afternoon to you, How. Mike Danahy, thanks for watching as well, and thanks for the question too. Cesar Ramirez. Mindy Heidgardner Gardner, thank you for watching. Monty Sheehy just sent Monty a little package. Matt Stender, another local fellow. Sarah Skluzacek, Louis Littlechild from England, thank you for watching. Brendan Seminario, I enjoy interacting with you there. Rob Morris, another local. Matt McHugh just sent you a package as well. Eve Barrett, thank you for watching. Andy Chadwick, Andy and I are going up north fishing next weekend. Connor O'Keefe, Casey Wires, thank you for watching. Thompson Almeida, just watched his live video in England today. Mark Johnson, howdy. Tell me about attaching the burlap. How did you do the seams? I did not do this. This person had a wall covering person do this, but when doing burlap, you have to keep a lot of the paste off the front, paste in the water. So it's a process of basically hanging art pieces. You have to have a perfectly clean table. When you paste the back, you can't get any around the edges, and you basically just have to have clean hands, clean tools, and lay each piece like it's a one-of-a-kind art piece. Now this one would have been more forgiving because we're going to paint it, but had this had just been laid in its natural state, you cannot get an ounce of anything. Water spots will actually discolor the front of this stuff. So Mark Johnson was one of the first guests I ever had on here. He's a historic restoration consultant, so he's a really cool guy to talk to. Joel Ramos, Deborah Hahn, Julie Hampton, thank you for watching. Richard Heirelman, he's another contractor here. Went to school with him, actually. Joel Ramos, good afternoon. John Cole, Vic Andrashko, Steve Curry, Natalie Newbert. I enjoyed meeting Natalie at PDCA event. Her dad, John, was actually on Ask a Painter last week. Julie Hampton, 30 sets a month. I assume she's talking about your cabinets. Kathleen Vogel, Daryl Stern, Happy New Year. Yeah, Happy New Year to you too. Steve Gifford, he's my Hirschfield's paint rep. Martinez, thank you for watching. Mike Cox, JD Mason. Mike Cox is doing 2 sets of cabinets this month, and that's, depending on your crew, that's still a lot of work to do. You know, 2 sets of cabinets fills up my shop right now, so Mike McNeil, Naomi, thank you for watching. Junior Costa, Patrick Song, Cappuccino Achi, thank you for watching. Mike Cox. The Business Brush, is it open for small new owners to join?
It is, but you have to answer all of the questions. We have, I talked a little bit about that in the group a little bit. there's a lot of people that like ignore the questions, and I'm like, if you're not willing to answer questions, you're not going to participate in the group. So I don't let those people in. So we're actually,
it's a small hurdle.
it's a small hurdle, but you got to answer. And honestly, I do read the question or the answers. And we had one guy that was like such a smart ass. I was like, no, you answered all my questions, but I don't like the answers. So I did.
Yeah. Well, it's a resume of sorts, I guess. So,
We want
Shane
people that
Woods,
are
thank you
serious
for
about
watching.
growing their business.
I agree. And you know what? You've actually curated a really interesting group of people. It's not some fancy little club or anything, but you've actually picked some very good minds, like level-headed, honest, just open people that really love this business and like talking about it. So Thomas Blankenship, Richard Heilman. I guess it's good to be in the industry if your name is Nick. Hashtag Slavic, May, and Lagrasso. You're all exceptional in many ways. Boy, this is great to read comments like that.
Love it.
Grateful to observe at very least what you collectively do. Yeah, and Richard, he puts us on Bluetooth on his job site, and he listens to this here. So the business brush is a game changer from Mike Danahy, and I would absolutely agree with that.
Thank you.
Mark Johnson, Nick, since you do interior design, how do you approach historic buildings? And if that is towards me, all I do is the color consultations, and I love old homes, so I have a library of primary data sources, old home catalogs, source catalogs, things like that, just like you do, Mark. And when I go to a color consultation, if it is for a historic home, because I like doing it, it's a hobby of mine, I can offer that. But Nick, do you do any, I mean, I just heard you, well, actually on the podcast this morning with Jeremy Brooks, I heard you talk about, you used to do all the color consultations for your business.
I did. Yeah, I used to, and then when we started hiring sales and project managers, I realized that they wouldn't necessarily have those skills, and so we outsourced to color designers that have been trained, and so they are fantastic at what they do. I do a lot with interior designers. My other podcast is me talking the business of interior design, so I don't do any interior design. So color consults is as close as we get.
Which I thought was really cool because I've been, I was not on the Chaise Lounge podcast from the start, but since knowing you, I've gone back and kind of picked some episodes here and there, and I thought it was a really good approach of, you know, you're not an interior designer, but sometimes that you might have better questions than people who are so myopic and so in there. So it's the podcast is a really cool interaction between somebody who's, yes, sort of in that field, but not necessarily just waist deep in it. And it's a really cool interaction.
Well, I'm really passionate about small business, and I just thought it was a great way for me to get in front of interior designers, which is one of my great niches of customers that we go after. And it's been huge for me. It really has.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thomas Blankenship, dang it, right in the middle of spraying trim. So I'll can't watch it live. You'll save it for later. So all these will be archived, and absolutely. And usually the guest and I go back on later whenever we have time, and a lot of questions come up. So this is not done when it's done here. It's archived on Facebook, archived on YouTube, and whatever questions you have after. I'm still answering questions from a cabinet enameling Ask a Painter I did over a year ago. Questions still come up on it, so it's one of the most popular ones. So, Charlie Zangle, thank you for watching. Joel Ramos, as usual. Joel is one of my good Brazilian friends, so thank you so much there. Paul Rafferty, decorators, thank you for watching. Richard Heilman, looking forward to joining the PDCA. You fellas are great advertising for them. Talk to Chris Shank about royalties. We'll see about that. The PDCA is in a growth stage or a innovation stage right now. So it seems, only having been introduced to it a couple years ago, it seems like when I joined the PDCA maybe 2.5 years ago, I joined it at a certain time where there seemed to be a big changeover, and I didn't know it because I didn't know the organization. But they got a new director. They got Chris Shank, the education fella, came on. Since then, he's padded out the education department, and it's been really interesting. Like we're going through these phases of business. This group of people seems to be going through the same thing, doing some really innovative things. So it's exciting to be part of stuff like that. So Andy Tupy, thank you for watching. Guillermo Neri, thank you for watching. Chris Patterson, the local paint rep, thank you, sir. Rafael Henrik Morales, he's in Brazil down there. David Bastier. Jeffrey Johnson, Oklahoma City is a wealthy city due to people in the oil industry. All right, Rob Yellis, I'm sure that's good.
Jeffrey's one of my friends, one of my interior designers that I've gotten to know through
That's awesome.
interior design podcast, and he's moved around a bunch, so he would know.
Mary Socorro Hart, Sandy Gallagher, thank you for watching. Adam Davis. All right. Richard Heilman, when each of you hired your first guy or guys, how did it go and what level of employment were they brought into? I crushed it one year with a couple of guys self-employed as myself. Let's see if I can see the rest of it. Year two, moved across. Yeah, it cuts my thing off. But basically, I think the crux of that question is, so are you supposed to make money right away? How many people? Is there a plateau? Is there something in there? I will tell you this. I can't directly answer that, but in this 10-year financial analysis of my company, I found that my most profitable year I've ever had is when I've had the bulk of my employees tenured for 3 years or more. So one of the big goals of mine this year is I can still grow my business and have turnover. If my entire 10-person operation turns over in a year, I can still have growth. But if those people are there for 3 years, then all of a sudden you start capitalizing, just like you said, Nick, on your investment. So my goal this year is to basically just have an employee retention program. And going forward, I need 3+ years out of everybody I come into contact with. And hopefully I would like them to work with me for the rest of their lives. But my goal is 3 years. So Richard, it's the same thing where it's not necessarily how many. Right now, I think the most profitable business I could run right now, if I had to, was to take my 3 or 4 best guys and get out there and make it happen. And we'd probably do just fine, you know. But again, then you're not building towards that future because those 3 or 4 guys were the worthless guys before. And the rest of the 6 or 7 guys will eventually be those 3 or 4. And that would be the goal. Let's see. Athena, thank you so much for watching. Connor O'Keefe, 2 questions. With oak doors, we found we have to back roll primer to fill the grain. Can that be avoided? Yes. Number 2, I use Gusto to run payroll and work comp and include on a pay per period basis. And then my question cuts off. For some reason, they only let me see so much. So I will definitely answer your first question. Connor, if you can expand on that, it only lets me see 4 lines of text. So if you want to expound on that last payroll question, I found with the right sprayer, the right coating, the right tip, the right pressure, and the right technique, you can fill that grain fairly easily. I use oil primer. I use a 24-year-old Graco airless sprayer. I use a Titan TR2 tip, and we go max pressure because it's an old sprayer. And because it's the oil primer, we sand with a Merca, something like that. And Ronnie, I just saw you popped up. We may get to you in a bit here, but I've found that if you have a wet mill thickness gauge and you lay that oil primer on as thick as the technical data sheet allows, and then sand it down after really, really well, that grain will be completely filled, and there's no need to go back with filler or do 4 coats of bin, things like that. So
you're laying that out on flat surface, right?
Oh, absolutely. Everything that we do, like the cabinet door, I mean, obviously we can't take the boxes out, but everything else goes back to the shop flat surface. And that's the big thing, because let's say we have some horribly done golden oak from 1987, 1 coat of lacquer, and there's that weird surface tension where if guys don't do it right, every pour, the lacquer will almost bunch up on the outside. And if you just spray paint on there, it'll do the same thing. If that happens on the boxes, those are the easiest things to do by hand. So if we have to quick say, okay, this is the worst set of open poured cabinets we've ever had, what I'll actually do is not brush the primer because you put a lot of brush strokes in. I'll actually brush one of the top coats and then spray right over it. So worst case scenario, I think the worst kitchen we ever had to do, primed, heavy. I'm never a believer in 2 prime coats. You should be able to do it in 1. If you do more than a 3-coat system, a lot of the times you exceed the total surface that you should be putting on there. Now each coating can be put on at a certain wet mill thickness, but you can only stack so many of those before you start getting some weird interplays between curing, chemistry, things like that. So the worst kitchen we ever did, we primed it like normal, sanded it nice, vacuumed it off, tack ragged it off, and then we brushed on the coat of top coat and immediately laid a light coat of spray over the top just to sort of keep it wet longer, and then it's sucked down. Then the second top coat as usual. So you'll never fill the pores with paint, which everybody wants to do, but that's the best you can do, you know.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, I've got to run. I've got to get to another meeting, so I'm going to have to kick off here. It was super fun to chat with you and to have so many people. It was fun to watch the names as people were jumping on to watch this call, and we'll have to do it again.
Absolutely, and you had me on your podcast. It's not out yet, but that will be coming up.
Coming soon.
And Nick and I are omnipresent, so it seems, on the Business Breath group. So Nick, thank you so much. I appreciate all the opportunities that you've given me this past, and you get to your meeting, and we're definitely going to do this again.
Thanks, buddy. We'll see you soon.
Take care.
And if anybody has questions for me that we didn't get to, just tag me in the questions so I get the notification, and I'll come back and I'll answer any of those questions that are directly at me.
Awesome. Well, here's to a good 2018, Nick.
Thanks, buddy. We'll see you soon.
See ya. Okay, I'll buzz through a few of these here. Jeff Tuma, Casey Hamlin, Darren Davies, thank you much. Joe Hecker, a good friend of mine from the design world. Invest when the market is slow. I would agree. Brian Kuhn, Mark Ringel, Anderson Herring, Joe Strain, Mike Danahy. Have you ever had a really bad customer or on-site experience that made you question your career? No. I have this thing that I call the ability to sleep measurement, where certain things allow me to sleep less or more that I do in my business, and I sometimes use it as a guiding light. Because I have a low tolerance for things going wrong on job sites, it's actually done me well. I've got a lot of sleepless nights, but it's actually done me well over the long term because what I consider our best attribute is we take care of our clients no matter what. To any length, we will take care of them because they have a problem, we will fix it. At some point, that's okay, but you have to sort of then realize where you may be doing more than the customer expects, and they don't even need what that is. So, a specific example, I've never thought I'd quit the trade, but there's things that always make me be very introspective to say, do they have a personality disorder? Is it me? What business process could I do better? And every mistake that's ever been made, at least in my company, has always been when a certain process wasn't followed or somebody got lazy. 99.9% of all problems can be fixed by the owner or the person actually doing it. It's almost never the paint. People want to blame it on the paint. Never the paint. And usually it's never the homeowner. You may say, well, they asked for something unrealistic, but that's a failure of you as a salesperson. You did not gain their trust. You did not tell them what they should expect. And if you were honest with them and they wanted something different, they would have found somebody else. Sometimes they get around it, but honestly, as the business owner, you can solve a lot of that. So Wes Melgren, thank you so much. Scroll through here. Jenny Stika, Jason Reynolds, Julie Hampton, Adam Davis, Cesar Ramirez, thank you for watching. Lindsay Sheehy, I may have missed it because I just got on. How many hours during the week are you on actual jobs working? I like to do somewhere between 10 and 20%, give or take. I call myself the sort of technical assistance role now, where I bump my guys in the right direction with techniques or products or things like that. Minor process improvements. I got a whole bunch of really good people here, and they know what to do. I just have to, as I want them to progress, and as we progress through finer and finer finishes, they just need slight guidance here or there, and all they need is the information, the data point. They can go forward. Ray Ronnie, thank you for watching. Catherine May, Nick May's wife, thank you for watching. Caesar, me, I change my head every day. If I need to paint, I paint. It's the love of the art. I agree. And I was 2 years ago, I was stuck in this part where I love painting as much as the entrepreneurial side, and you don't have to choose. You can do both. an effective business owner can still do both. You can take whatever knowledge you have about painting and put that stink on other people, and then get other people to do that too. And I take just as much pride as watching my people progress through the apprenticeship program as I do with doing it myself. I still do it myself. I experiment in my shop quite a bit. So Stefan Trepke, thank you for watching. George Zergianis, thank you for watching. Jason Paris, the great and powerful Jason Paris, a great friend of mine here from Minneapolis. John Scherer, I love interaction with John. He's a good guy. Jesse Krennick, Lindsey Green, Samantha Anderson, Lindsay just tuned in. Ron Ramsden, thank you for watching. Michael Van Morick, Dustin, another good painter friend of mine. Dustin Zapanzik, Joe Hecker, sharing is caring. No better statement. Joe always says sharing is caring, and thank you for liking this. Thank you for watching it. The kindest thing you can do for me and for Ask a Painter and the progression of knowledge in the painting field is share this. We get more people on it, and just like Nick May, if people didn't share this, I wouldn't have found about the business brush, wouldn't have found about Nick, and then this knowledge wouldn't have been dispensed today. So Rafael Martin, thank you for watching. PJ McLaughlin, Lacey Halverson, Lindsey Green, I'm a lady painter, love my work, it's my passion. I agree. I absolutely agree. This is a wonderful trade, and it's easy to love. Lindsay Sheehy, your story is very similar to my husband's. My father-in-law is a painter, but not a businessman. Monty knew he would never grow if he did what his dad did, so he changed it. That's really good to hear, and I'm glad that you guys are working as a team too. My family business did not work out. I love it when I hear about family businesses doing well. So Colby Davis, thank you for watching. Roland Vlasak, thank you for watching. Ryan Schaust, Mi Jacek, thank you for watching. John Scherer, first time watching Slavic, good sound. The North Korea dysfunctional family analogy makes me think of nuclear bombs. And that's basically what happened, John. You would probably be interested in this, but as soon as I went to, after high school, went military, went to college, I came home to rejoin the family business. We had a big sit down and everything blew up. Turns out my father had no path for me to ever be more than an hourly laborer in his business. So that became a problem, and it was a nuclear holocaust for sure. Mike Pote, anytime, man. We appreciate the good questions. So Mark Dillery, thank you for watching. Mike, interesting to know how Ask a Painter came about, going from working with your crew to making videos. Well, here's the deal. People see me here and they think I've given up all that for this crazy Hollywood lifestyle that's all of a sudden is seen here. But I still immerse myself in my business. I'm very disciplined about business. I'm still with the crews every day. If I'm not actually painting or finishing, I am working on the business very diligently. So what happened was, because I'm such a lover of this trade, and I try to progress my knowledge as much as I can, people would just naturally come to me with questions. Pretty soon, with the advent of social media, people see me do something cool like a mahogany basement, and they say, how do you do that? What are your techniques? How do you even begin to do something like this? And I just started answering questions, and pretty soon I just said, hey, yeah, you mind if I just share this on Facebook or Instagram? And they did. And pretty soon, Facebook Live came about. The PDCA actually asked me to do a live bit of training from one of my historic restorations. It turned out that historic restoration won me 2 national awards last year, and it was one of the first live videos of the PDCA or I ever did. We didn't win an award for the video, but we showcased this project that did, but that just got me going. Like, this is the easiest thing on earth. In the time it takes you to tap out a post, tag the right people, and do it, you fire this thing up, you hit live, you say, look at this mahogany cabinet, this is what we did before. Ask a Painter is, just like Nick said with the business brush, it's a selfish pursuit that turns out to be very altruistic and a good thing. I just show what I like. My social media feeds are full of things that I like. If I see something I like, or if I can share a bit of knowledge, I do it. If there's interest in it, we can expound on it. And turns out people like to share the knowledge of the business and the actual painting as well. So I'm still with all my crews. I do my site visits every day. I bump them around technically. I do experiments in the shop. Once in a while, I'll get my hands dirty myself, but that's only been maybe 6 months. I have not been doing 10-hour days of labor. So it's been an interesting sort of transition for me here. So Johan Luis, thank you for watching. Thiago, thank you for watching as well. That's Julie Hampton. You had a question for Nick. Sorry, he's gone. Carlos Andre Silvera, thank you for watching. Bader Albushi, thank you for watching. Loretta Rose, Marco Roberto, Bo Graham. Yeah, thank you for watching, Bo. We appreciate it. Craig Boswell is watching as well. Bo is Canadian and doesn't hear an accent. You'll probably hear more of an accent with me, but when Nick says no, that's when you can hear. That's probably a Chicago coming out of him now. So Ed Peach, thank you for watching. Mark Johnson again. Thiago Fernandez, Efren Medina, love interacting with you. Ray Ronnie, thanks again. Ray, I really look up to you in the industry too, man. You're running a really tight outfit. So Brian Kuhn, great show. Thank you, sir. Ryan Parker, Dustin Zapancic, thanks, fellas. Loving all the insights. One of the most inspirational people I've met was actually Dustin last year. He's a young progressive contractor. He's out there making it happen. Dustin does some of the finest homes probably in the world. He's up in Vancouver, and if you've not followed Dreamscape Painting on Instagram, if you want to see what interior fine finishing is really like, go see Dustin. Donna Lawson, thank you for watching. Matt McHugh, thank you so much for the compliments. Daniel Livingston, how much you spend outfit a paint trailer? Nick will have to hop on and answer that real quick there. Connor O'Keefe, I appreciate this. I think it builds camaraderie for all of us and provides us with some the sense of having coworkers. I agree. Perspective is everything. Perspective is the most valuable thing you can grab. So Mike Danahy, Cesar Ramirez, Dave Rushing, thank you guys. Lindsey Green, love spraying kitchens. Richard, Steve Gifford is the man. He's great in person with great knowledge. Yeah, he's our local Hirschfield's rep. He's a good guy. Hirschfield's is a local paint store here. So Gustavo Ramirez, good conversation. Thank you much. Thiago, I was about to take a shower when I started watching the show, and I'm still here because you guys are very smart. Thank you very much, man. It means a lot. Bob Foy, a fellow veteran, fellow VFW guy. Richard Heilman. Let's see, it was a joke. Let's go back through here. Fernanda, thank you for watching. Mike Pote, Gunnar Waldman from This Old House, thank you very much. Natalie Newbert, Mike Pote, great show. You're welcome, my friend. Turning in from Bath, Lindsay Green, Bath, UK. It's awesome to have you guys there. Brent Judd, do either of you offer benefits like health to help retain employees? Soon. It's one of those things that we'll be doing soon. I need to progress my guys to the point where we can get to the pay grades where we can start offering that stuff, and it will be an incentive for my fellows to stay on after that. So Brent, I will be doing that probably later here. Connor O'Keefe, used to run Gusto to run payroll, and work comp is included in their pay period basis. It's roughly 13%. What rate would I expect to pay with the discounts and a different company? Gonna vary a little bit, but a lot of numbers get tossed around somewhere between 8 and 13, give or take there. I don't know. I haven't heard an extremely low number, so I'm not sure. But the best thing you can do is find a national company, find an ultra local payroll company to do that. Talk to your insurance guy, get a couple data points, and then start asking why, if there's any difference between there, Connor, and you'll find a thing there. So. Oh, Ray, he popped up live. No need to go live. No problem, man. Anytime you want to, we're here. So, Ed Peach, what cabinet coatings do you like? I'm a big cover stain primer guy and Benjamin Moore Advance. Sherwin-Williams makes a whole bunch of good enamels as well. I'm a huge lover of oils. We have another job site going on over here where we're doing 2 colors of Benjamin Moore and Pervol oil. Let's see what else we use in here. We're using Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic oil here at this house. And we have some other projects using Advance. So each of them are different tools. There's not one. You don't have to pick teams like Chevy or Ford. Each one is a different tool. There's the Emerald Enamel too, which is phenomenal. There's a whole bunch of quick dry. There's DTMs you can use. There's the new hybrids, the Elkit emulsions. And there's a whole bunch of fun stuff out there, but they're tools for different things. So if anybody tells you that this one is the best by far, it's probably good, but it's not the only thing out there, and they're giving up a lot of other stuff. So Sandra Paviotti, thank you for watching. Thiago, you're welcome, my friend. Richard, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate your continued thing here, and we're going to have to do one of these Ask a Painters sometime. We'll have to go out to Lake Lexington out there, Lee Center, sit at the bar and do an Ask a Painter. So Joel Hamburg, thank you for watching. Sandra Paviotti, Scott Miller. Richard, right on about sleep. Absolutely. That's my canary in the coal mine. So Cesar Ramirez, thank you much. Aaron Campbell, Kerry Horton, Juliano, thank you for watching, my friend. Oh, Joel Hamburg is watching from a hospital bed today. That's too bad. I hope we can bring some levity, though.
Richard, have you ever considered hiring someone completely outside your company to lead to a head position? Asking for a friend. No, I'm a firm believer. I think for certain things you can, but the problem is when you're known for painting and it's a very personal company, when I'm not the point man for my company, I feel like I'm not giving what I've sold my people. So I think that for somebody to be a salesman in my company, they would have to be one of my apprentices, and then a senior apprentice, and then a craftsman, and then a senior craftsman, move into the leadership team, be my right-hand man, and then you would probably be able to get the chance to estimate. Otherwise, you will not know the fine details of this. Now, we are not doing standardized industrial factory work. Every job is different. So when you have a job like this to do with gold wallpaper and this, if you've never done one before, it might be 2 years before we do another one. How can you get enough data points to do this unless you have 24 years of experience as a painter? So, Richard, I got some very distinct thoughts about that, but I know other companies do it differently, and everybody's got their own market, and they promise a different product too. So, Ronnie Jacks, thank you for watching. Lindsay's in the bathtub. All right. Gary Gomez, your generosity is tremendously appreciated. Absolutely. This is for all of us, guys. This is a forum. So this is not me telling you how to do it. I love the interactions, and selfishly, I have gained way more from this than I have given from all the people I've come into contact with. So Mike Zamatis, thank you so much. Bo Graham, advice to a one-man show painter that loves the business. Ex-oil and gas guy for 18 years, 3 layoffs in 2015, just getting by and challenged to balance sales, marketing, labor, etc. Single dad, 2-year-old. That's a tough one. And Bo, again, I can only see 4 lines of text here, but the easiest thing is, again, it's not going to be fair. Give yourself 3 years, make a plan, get some people working for you, get your processes down. First, make sure your painting process is impeccable. Then document all those processes. Document your sales, document your marketing, document your actual painting processes. Take another guy on, bring him up to speed, bring another guy on, bring him up to speed, and eventually you will grow into that. If you're a one-man company and you go get 4 people, you will lose whatever reputation you had unless you are an unbelievable leader and craftsman and be able to immediately turn out the same work that you did before. So slowly grow into it. But once you hit the critical mass of 2 or 3, then you just go 8. Then it's easier. And once you go 8, then you go 12. And you can make big leaps and jumps there. So hopefully that helped you out there. Mike Zamatis, thank you, Nick. You're appreciated. Well, thank you, guys. I've run out to the edge of the comments. We've gone way over time today. Thank you guys so much for doing this. I'm going to get back to the cruise. You guys have a good weekend. And if anybody has guest suggestions or topic suggestions or anything like that, let me know. Otherwise, we will see you on the internet. Talk to you later.